Get out of my house." Those were the last words my son said to me before he threw me into a freezing November rain and locked the door behind me. I was 65 years old, recovering from a stroke, and my daughter-in-law had just told the perfect lie. 3 hours later, when the hospital called him, his face went pale. But by then, the truth was already coming for her. I'm grateful you're here with me. Before we go further, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It means the world to know I'm not telling this story alone. It's December now, 2 years later. I'm 67, sitting in a small apartment in Tucson, watching rain slide down the window. My phone vibrates on the kitchen table. A text message from William. My hands shake as I pick it up. 18 months of silence, and now just 4 words. "Mom, we need to talk." Then another message. "Can I come see you?" I stare at the screen until the words blur. Do I have the courage to face my son again? Just 2 years ago, I thought I knew him better than anyone in this world. I thought a mother's love was enough to protect her from anything. I was wrong. Let me tell you what really happened that night. The night my whole world shattered. The night I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most can hurt you the worst. I was sitting in my bedroom at William's house watching the evening news. My body was still weak from the stroke I'd had the year before. My right hand trembled when I tried to hold things. Simple tasks like buttoning my cardigan took 3 times as long as they used to. The doctor said I was lucky. The stroke could have killed me. Instead, it just took my independence. My knee throbbed with a dull, persistent ache. 3 months post-surgery, and it still hurt every time I stood up. The physical therapist said it would get better. "Give it time, Mrs. Monroe," she'd say with that practiced smile. "You're doing great for someone your age." For someone my age. As if 65 meant I should just accept being broken. I shifted in the recliner, trying to find a position that didn't make my knee scream. The pain medication made me drowsy. By 8 o'clock most nights I was asleep in this chair, remote control still in my hand. William was on a business trip. Seattle, he'd said. 3 days of meetings with potential investors for his software company. He'd be home tonight around 8:30. Hannah, my daughter-in-law, had been considerate. That's the word I kept using when I talked to my sister Sophia on the phone. Hannah's been very considerate, but there were things I didn't tell Sophia. Little things that made my stomach twist. The way Hannah's voice changed when William left the room. How her smile would fade like someone had flipped a switch. 2 weeks ago, I'd walked into the kitchen and found Hannah on her phone. She was laughing, her voice low and intimate. When she saw me, she ended the call abruptly. "Just a friend from work," she'd said. But her cheeks were flushed, her eyes too bright. Last week, I'd noticed shopping bags in her car. Designer labels I recognized from the department stores downtown. Louis Vuitton, Gucci. Her salary as a marketing consultant was good, but not that good. I told myself I was being a suspicious old woman. The kind of mother-in-law I'd promised myself I'd never be. The kind who sees problems where there aren't any. Who can't let her son be happy with his wife. So I said nothing. I smiled when Hannah brought me dinner on a tray. I thanked her when she helped me up the stairs. I played the role of the grateful mother-in-law who knew her place. I heard the front door open. William's voice called out, "I'm home." My heart lifted. 3 days felt like forever when you're alone with someone who's just tolerating your presence. I started to get up, reaching for my cane. Then I heard Hannah's voice, and something in her tone made me freeze. "William," she sounded breathless, shaken. I didn't want to tell you like this, but I can't keep living in fear." I couldn't see them from my bedroom, but I could hear everything. Our house, William's house, I reminded myself, had thin walls. "What's wrong?" William's voice changed, concerned, alert. "Hannah, what happened?" "Your mother," Hannah's voice broke. Perfect timing, perfect pitch. "When I brought her dinner tonight, she grabbed me, hard. I tried to pull away and she..." Silence, the kind that feels like the air has been sucked out of the room. I stood up too fast. My knee buckled, sending a spike of pain up my leg. I grabbed my cane and limped toward the bedroom door as fast as I could. "She what?" William's voice was tight, controlled, the way he sounded when he was trying very hard not to explode. "She pushed me." Hannah was crying now. I could hear it in her voice. "I don't know what I did to make her so angry. I've tried so hard to make her feel welcome here." I reached my bedroom door and looked out into the hallway. Hannah was standing in the living room, illuminated by the soft glow of the table lamps. William stood in front of her, his overnight bag still in his hand, his face a mask of shock. But it was Hannah who made my blood run cold. She was crying, real tears streaming down her face, her mascara running in artistic black streaks. Her blouse was torn at the shoulder, the fabric hanging loose. And on her left arm, just visible where her sleeve had been pushed up, a bruise. Dark purple, fresh-looking. The kind that comes from someone grabbing you hard enough to leave fingerprints. My mouth went dry. "Mom!" William had spotted me in the doorway. His voice cut through the air like a knife. "Mom, what did you do?" I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could speak, Hannah recoiled. She actually stepped backward, one hand coming up as if to protect herself. "Please," Hannah whispered, her voice trembling. "Please don't let her near me." William stepped between us. My own son putting his body between me and his wife, like I was dangerous, like I was someone to be afraid of. "The Ring camera footage," William said, his eyes never leaving mine. "I need to see it." Hannah's voice was small, frightened. "I accidentally deleted it. I was so scared I was just pressing buttons on the app trying to call you, and I deleted it by accident." Of course she did. My voice came out as a whisper. "Son, I never touched her." William's face hardened. "Then why is she bruised? Why is her shirt torn?" "I was asleep in my chair," I said, hating how my voice shook. "My medication makes me drowsy after dinner. I've been asleep for the last hour." "That's not what Hannah says." "Call Pastor Gina," I said desperately. "She knows about my medication. She knows I'm always asleep by 8 o'clock. "Hannah says you attacked her at 7:45. William's jaw clenched. "Were you asleep then?" I tried to remember. Had I been asleep at 7:45, the medication made everything fuzzy. I remembered Hannah bringing me dinner on a tray. I remembered eating. And then, the uncertainty must have shown on my face because William's expression changed. Something in his eyes went cold. "I brought you into my home after your stroke," he said, his voice rising. "I trusted you around my wife. I paid for your surgery. I gave you a place to live when you couldn't take care of yourself. And this is how you repay me." Each word was like a physical blow. "William, please." He grabbed my arm, not gently, not the way a son should touch his mother. His fingers dug into my flesh right above my elbow. I could feel the pressure, knew it would leave marks. The irony wasn't lost on me. His grip would give me a real bruise. Hannah's bruise was fake. But which one would anyone believe? "Son, please," I tried again. "Just check the camera yourself. There has to be a backup." Hannah said the footage is gone. He pulled me toward the front door. I stumbled, my bad knee buckling. "Convenient, right? That it's gone right when you need it." His fingers dug in harder. Pain shot up my arm. I winced, trying to pull away, but he held firm. "Please, it's freezing outside. Let me just get my phone from my room. Let me get my coat." But William wasn't hearing me. He grabbed my jacket from the coat hook by the door and threw it at my chest. My wallet fell out of the pocket, and he scooped it up and shoved it into my hands. "Get out." The words were flat, final, without mercy. "William, I'm your mother. I can't even look at you right now." He pushed me toward the door, not hard enough to knock me down, but hard enough to make his point. "I can't have you in this house, not after what you did." I tried to resist, tried to plant my feet, but my body, this old broken body, was too weak. My knee gave out and I stumbled onto the porch. The November air hit me like a slap. Cold, wet, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. "Son, please just let me explain." The door slammed in my face. I heard the deadbolt click. That sound, that single metallic click. It was somehow worse than everything else. So final, so absolute, like a door closing on my entire life. I stood there in shock, my fist pounding on the door. William, please." The lights inside started going out, one by one. Living room, hallway, kitchen. William's message was clear. This conversation was over. I was no longer welcome. Through the front window, I caught a glimpse of Hannah's silhouette. She was standing there in the darkened living room watching me. Just watching. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Like I was already forgotten. I stood alone on that porch, rain beginning to fall. Just a drizzle at first, but I knew what November rain in Portland meant. It would get worse. Much worse. My hands shook as I checked my wallet. $40, a set of house keys that were now useless, my Medicare card, my driver's license with a photo from 5 years ago before the stroke, before my husband David died, before I became this person I barely recognized. No phone. It was still charging on my nightstand. A whole world away. The realization hit me like a physical blow. William truly believed her. My son, the boy I'd carried for 9 months, the child I'd rocked through countless nightmares, the young man I'd helped through college, he believed I was capable of hurting someone. A memory flashed through my mind, unbidden and cruel. David's funeral, 3 years ago, March 2020, right when the pandemic was starting. We could only have 10 people at the service. William had held me up at the graveside when my legs wouldn't work, his arm around my shoulders, his voice in my ear. "We'll get through this together, Mom. I've got you. You're not alone. I promise you're not alone." 3 years later, he threw me into a storm. I looked down the dark street. Rain-slick pavement reflected the streetlights. My knee was already screaming at me the kind of pain that meant I'd pushed it too hard, done too much. 3.5 miles to Riverside Community Church. That's where Pastor Gina ran a cold weather shelter. 3.5 miles through freezing November rain with a bum knee, a weak arm from my stroke, and $40 to my name. But what choice did I have? I pulled my jacket closer, but it was already getting wet. I took my first step down the walkway, my cane clicking against the concrete. Behind me, the last light in William's house went out. I've lived in Oregon my whole life. I know what November rain feels like. Cold, relentless, the kind that soaks through everything no matter how many layers you wear. But that night, every drop felt like it was washing away the person I thought I was, the mother I thought I'd been, the son I thought I'd raised. I kept to the lit streets. The residential area was quiet at 8:30 on a Wednesday night. Families inside eating dinner, watching TV, living normal lives. Lives where sons didn't throw their mothers out into storms. After the first quarter mile, my jacket was soaked through. My knee throbbed with each step. The pain was different now. Sharper. The kind that meant I was doing real damage. I passed a mailbox I recognized. The blue one on the corner of Maple and 5th. The same one where I used to wait for William after school 30-some years ago. He'd come running out of the building, his backpack bouncing, his face lit up with joy. Mom, look, I got an A on my science test." That same boy had just thrown me out of his house. The memory made my chest tight. I kept walking. By half a mile, my hands were going numb. I tried pulling my jacket closed, but it didn't help anymore. The rain was getting heavier. The temperature was dropping. I could see my breath in the air. The residential streets gave way to commercial buildings. Closed shops. Dark windows. A pizza place still open. Warm light spilling out onto the sidewalk. I could smell the food from the street. My stomach growled, reminding me I'd barely touched my dinner. $40. I could stop, get something warm, call a cab, but $40 also had to last until William realized he'd made a mistake, until I figured out where to go, what to do, how to survive. I kept walking. At the 1 mile mark, I had to stop. There was a bus shelter, and I leaned against it, my whole body shaking. Not just from cold, from something deeper. Hypothermia. I knew the signs. My late husband David had been a paramedic. He'd told me stories. The uncontrollable shivering. The fog creeping into your thoughts. The dangerous, seductive temptation to just sit down. Just for a minute. Just to rest. Another memory surfaced sharp and painful. David's memorial service. March 15th, 2020. 10 people in masks standing 6 feet apart around a grave. Cancer had taken him in 3 months. Pancreatic. By the time they found it, it was too late. William had held me up at the graveside. Literally held me up. My legs wouldn't work. The grief was too heavy. "We'll get through this together, Mom," he'd whispered. "I've got you." 3 years later, he let me go. I forced myself to keep moving. My knee was screaming now. Every step sent jagged bolts of pain up my leg. I tried to favor it, but that just made my good leg hurt worse. At 1.5 miles, I stumbled. My foot caught on an uneven piece of sidewalk, and I nearly went down. I caught myself on a parking meter, my heart pounding. Cars passed their headlights cutting through the rain. Water splashed up from their tires. Not one of them stopped. Not one of them even slowed down. I realized what I must look like. Some homeless person, some drunk, someone to avoid making eye contact with, someone whose problems were their own fault. At 2 miles, I got disoriented. The cold was doing something to my mind, making everything fuzzy. For a moment, I forgot where I was going. Why was I walking where? Then I remembered. Church, Pastor Gina, shelter. I focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Left foot, right foot. Ignore the pain. Left foot, right foot. Keep moving. By 2.5 miles, my vision was starting to tunnel, the edges going dark. The cold was working on my mind, my body convincing me that rest was a good idea. Just sit down. Just for a minute. Just close your eyes. David's voice in my head. That's when people die, Ash. When they give in to the cold. I kept walking. For David. For myself. For some stubborn part of me that refused to let Hannah win. At 3 miles, I saw it. The church steeple in the distance. Riverside Community Church. The cross on top was lit up glowing against the dark sky. Hope surged through me. Warmth flooded my chest, not from my body, but from something deeper. I wasn't going to die. I was going to make it. I pushed forward, my eyes locked on that steeple like it was a lighthouse in a storm, like it was the only thing keeping me anchored to this world. 3.25 miles. The church parking lot came into view. Pastor Gina's car was still there, her old blue Honda with the Coexist bumper sticker. She was at the front door locking up for the night. I tried to call out, but my voice wouldn't work. Just a rasping sound in my throat. My lips were too numb to form words. 20 feet from the church steps, my knees buckled. I hit the wet pavement hard. My cane skittered away. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't respond. My arms were too weak. My legs wouldn't hold me. My last clear thought was, William will never know the truth. Ashley, oh my God, Ashley. Warm hands on my face. Pastor Gina's voice urgent and frightened. Stay with me, honey. Stay with me. I'm calling 911. Her coat draped over me. Her presence steady, solid, real. I heard sirens approaching through the rain. The sound seemed to come from very far away, like I was underwater and the world was happening on the surface. In the ambulance, they put an oxygen mask on my face, wrapped heated blankets around me. The warmth hurt, burned, made me gasp. Gina sat beside me holding my hand, the one that still worked properly. Her other hand was on her phone, her voice urgent, angry. 65 years old. Yes, you heard me right. Thrown out in a storm. Yes, I'm absolutely certain. No, this wasn't an accident. His wife lied to him. Yes, I said lied. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught fragments, enough to understand. Elder abuse, Gina said. 2 words, clear as a bell. Yes, I'm reporting elder abuse. Those 2 words cut through the fog in my brain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The truth was coming. And when it did, Hannah would have nowhere to hide. I woke up to the beeping of machines and the smell of antiseptic. That sharp chemical smell that every hospital has. The smell that takes me back to David's last days, to my own stroke, to every medical crisis that's marked the last few years of my life. For a confused, disoriented moment, I thought I was back in the hospital after my stroke. September 2022, the worst month of my life before this one. Then the memories crashed back. Hannah's tears, the bruise on her arm, William's face hard and cold and convinced, the door slamming, the rain, the endless walk, the cold seeping into my bones. This time my son put me here. The clock on the wall read 3:17 in the morning. About 4 hours since I'd collapsed in the church parking lot. 4 hours since my world ended. Pastor Gina was still there asleep in the chair beside my bed. Her head was tilted at an uncomfortable angle, her glasses askew on her face. She'd thrown a hospital blanket over herself, but it had slipped down to her waist. 58 years old, and she'd spent the night in a hospital chair for me, while my own son had thrown me into a storm. I tried to move, and my body screamed in protest. Every muscle ached. My knee felt like it was on fire. My right hand, already weak from the stroke, trembled worse than ever. A nurse came in, young and efficient. Her name tag said Jennifer. She checked my vitals, her movements practiced and gentle. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Monroe?" Her voice was soft, probably trained not to wake other patients in nearby rooms. Like I walked 3.5 miles in a freezing storm, My voice came out as a croak. My throat was raw from the cold, from crying, from screaming William's name at a door that wouldn't open. Jennifer didn't smile at my attempt at humor. Instead, her eyes filled with something that looked like pity, or maybe anger on my behalf. "You nearly died," she said quietly. "Your core temperature was 89 degrees when you came in. Moderate hypothermia. Another 30 minutes out there and—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I closed my eyes. 89 degrees. David had told me once that anything below 95 was dangerous. Below 90 was life-threatening. My son had nearly killed me. "Your knee is re-injured." Jennifer continued making notes on her tablet. "You'll need a brace for at least 6 weeks, and there's bruising on your left arm." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was careful, controlled. "Finger-shaped bruising. Recent." I looked down at my arm. Sure enough, there were marks. 5 dark spots where William's fingers had dug in, perfect impressions of his grip. "My bruise was real," I whispered. "Hannah's was fake." Jennifer's eyes met mine. "The social worker will be in shortly. It's standard procedure for cases like this." Cases like this. Elder abuse cases. That's what Gina had called it on the phone in the ambulance. Gina stirred her eyes opening. When she saw I was awake, relief flooded her face. "Thank God." She sat up, wincing as her neck cracked. "Ashley, how are you feeling?" "Like my son tried to kill me." The words hung in the air between us. Brutal, honest, true. Gina reached for my hand, the left one the strong one, and held it tight. "He didn't know. Hannah lied to him." "He didn't ask," I said. "That's what hurts the most, Gina. He didn't ask me if it was true. He just believed her. His wife of 5 years over his mother of 40 years. Gina's jaw tightened. She was angry, I realized. Maybe angrier than I was. "I know William," she said. "I baptized that boy. I watched him grow up. And right now I don't recognize him. But Ashley, he was manipulated. That woman is—" She stopped, choosing her words carefully. "She's dangerous, and we're going to prove it." Before I could respond, there was a knock on the door. A man in his mid-30s stepped in carrying a leather portfolio. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and he moved with the careful competence of someone who'd done this job for a long time. "Mrs. Monroe, I'm Dr. Marcus Vasquez. I'm a social worker here at the hospital." He pulled up a chair, sitting so we were at eye level. "I need to ask you some questions about what happened tonight." My first instinct was to protect William, to say it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd just gone for a walk and gotten lost. But Gina squeezed my hand. Hard. "Tell him the truth," she said firmly. "All of it." So I did. I told him about living with William after my stroke, about Hannah's coldness when William wasn't around, about the accusation, the bruise on her arm, the torn blouse, the deleted ring camera footage, William grabbing me, throwing me out into the rain. Dr. Vasquez took notes, his pen moving steadily across his legal pad. He didn't interrupt, didn't ask leading questions, just let me talk. When I finished, my throat was raw again. Jennifer had left a cup of water on my bedside table, and I drank it gratefully. "Mrs. Monroe," Dr. Vasquez said carefully, "I need to be very clear about something. When allegations of assault are made and an elderly person ends up in the ER after being expelled from their home, we have mandatory reporting laws in Oregon." "Reporting to who?" My voice was small. "To the Portland Police for the assault allegation, and to Adult Protective Services APS for potential elder abuse." Elder abuse. There was that phrase again. "My son isn't—" I started, but Dr. Vasquez held up a hand gently. "Mrs. Monroe, I understand you want to protect him, but intent doesn't change the outcome. You nearly died tonight. You were forced out of your home without proper clothing, without your phone, without shelter based on unverified accusations. Under Oregon law, that's elder abuse." "He was lied to," I said desperately. "He thought I hurt his wife." "Then the investigation will uncover that truth. If your daughter-in-law made false accusations that led to this, that's a crime. Filing a false police report. Potentially fraud if there was financial motivation. The investigation will reveal what really happened." Gina leaned forward. "Ashley, if she lied once, she'll do it again. What if William believes her next time? What if she convinces him to cut you out of his life permanently? Or worse?" I sat silent, letting their words sink in. They were right. I knew they were right. but the thought of William being investigated, possibly charged with elder abuse, made my heart hurt. Dr. Vasquez closed his tablet. I've already notified the authorities. An APS investigator will contact you within 24 hours. He paused, studying my face. Mrs. Monroe, I've done this work for 10 years. I've heard a lot of stories. And your story, it concerns me. Why? Because it's too consistent. He leaned back in his chair. People who lie change their stories. They add details, get defensive, try to explain away contradictions. You just told me what happened simply, clearly, like you're still trying to understand it yourself. That tells me you're telling the truth. His words broke something open inside me. I started crying. Not the quiet, dignified tears I'd been holding back. Real sobs that shook my whole body. Thank you, I whispered between sobs. Thank you for asking, for listening. My own son didn't even ask. Dr. Vasquez stood, giving me a moment to compose myself. You're not going back to that house, Mrs. Monroe. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? She's staying with me, Gina said immediately. When she's discharged, she's coming home with me, for as long as she needs. I wanted to protest, to say I couldn't impose, but I was too tired, too cold still even with the heated blankets, too broken. Thank you, I whispered again. For the first time that night, I felt safe. The next morning, November 16th, I was awakened by another knock on my door. The sky outside my window was gray and heavy with more rain. Portland in November. A woman in a gray blazer entered. She was 48, maybe 50, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun. She had a badge clipped to her belt and a leather portfolio under her arm that matched Dr. Vasquez's. Mrs. Monroe, I'm Patricia Rivera with Adult Protective Services. Her voice was professional but not cold, direct without being harsh. I'd like to hear your story. Gina, who'd gone home at 6 to shower and change, wasn't back yet. I was alone with this woman who held my future in her hands. I've already told this story twice, I said, suddenly exhausted at the thought of going through it again. I know, and I've read Dr. Vasquez's report, but I need to hear it from you directly. Consistency matters, Mrs. Monroe. People who lie rarely tell the same story 3 times. So I walked her through everything again. Living with William after my stroke, my medication routine, Hannah's accusation, the immediate expulsion, the walk, the collapse. Patricia took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions that seemed random but weren't. What time did you eat dinner? Around 6:30. Hannah brought it to my room on a tray. What did you eat? Chicken breast, steamed broccoli, rice. I could picture it clearly. She'd even made me decaf tea. She knew I couldn't have caffeine with my blood pressure medication. And after dinner, I took my medications, blood pressure, blood thinner, the muscle relaxer for my knee. What time? 7 o'clock. I always take them at 7. And then I watched TV, the news. I remember a story about a car accident on I-5, and then I frowned, trying to remember. The medication makes me drowsy. I must have fallen asleep in my chair. What time do you usually fall asleep? By 8. Sometimes 7:30 if I'm really tired. Patricia made a note. And what time did your daughter-in-law claim the assault occurred? William said, he said 7:45. Patricia's pen paused for just a second. Then she continued writing. She observed me carefully as we talked. I could tell she was noting things. The way my right hand trembled when I tried to hold my water cup. The way I winced when I shifted my weight, putting pressure on my injured knee. The sadness in my voice when I talked about William. You seem heartbroken, she said quietly. Not angry? I am heartbroken. Most people who are falsely accused are furious. They want justice, revenge. You just seem sad. He's my son, I said simply. I carried him for 9 months. I raised him. I loved him. And he threw me away like garbage because someone told him to. How am I supposed to feel? Patricia studied me for a long moment. Mrs. Monroe, with your permission, I'd like to review your complete medical records. Everything from your stroke, your physical therapy notes, your knee surgery, all of it. I signed the release immediately. Whatever you need to find the truth. Patricia spent the rest of the morning and early afternoon reviewing my records with the hospital staff. I dozed on and off, the exhaustion and medication pulling me under. Gina came back around noon with clean clothes and my toiletries from her house. "I stopped by William's house to get your things," she said. "He wouldn't let me in. Said you're not welcome there anymore." The words hurt, but I was too tired to cry. Around 3 in the afternoon, Patricia returned. She had printouts, now medical records and assessments, spread across the rolling table that swung over my bed. "Mrs. Monroe, I've reviewed your medical history thoroughly." I tensed. Here it comes. The doubt. But maybe you did grab her and forgot because of the medication. "What your daughter-in-law described grabbing someone hard enough to leave visible bruising, pushing someone forcefully when they tried to pull away your body, isn't capable of doing that." I stared at her. "What ye?" Patricia opened her portfolio, showing me the documents. "Your stroke in September 2022 affected the right side of your body. Your medical records show your right hand has severely limited function. Your grip strength was tested in physical therapy at 38% of normal." She pulled out another sheet. "Your physical therapist made a specific notation here. Patient unable to grip objects firmly with right hand. Compensates by using left hand for most daily activities." I knew all this, lived with it every day, but hearing it laid out as evidence was different. "For a grip to leave visible bruising," Patricia continued, "you need significant pressure. Your right hand, your dominant hand before the stroke, has less than 40% grip strength. That's medically insufficient to cause bruising." She showed me another document. "Your knee surgery was in August of this year. Meniscus repair. You're still in recovery. You use a cane for distances over 100 yards. Your assessment notes say patient at risk of falling with sudden movements or when off balance." Patricia looked up at me, her dark eyes steady. "To push someone forcefully the way Mrs. Hannah Monroe described, you need balance and core strength. Your medical records show you can barely push open a heavy door without risking a fall. There's a note here from just a week before the incident. Patient nearly fell when she lost balance reaching for something on a shelf." My eyes filled with tears. For the first time since this nightmare started, someone was listening. Really listening. Not to emotions or assumptions, but to facts. To evidence. "Mrs. Monroe, bodies don't lie. The medical evidence shows that what your daughter-in-law described is physically impossible for you to do." I broke down. Gina, who'd been standing quietly by the window, came to my bedside and held me while I cried. "Thank you," I kept saying. "Thank you for asking. Thank you for checking. Thank you for believing me." Patricia let me cry for a moment. Then she said something that made my head snap up. "Mrs. Monroe, you mentioned your son said the Ring camera footage was deleted. Is that correct?" "Yes. Hannah told him she accidentally deleted it when she was trying to call him." Patricia's expression changed slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Mrs. Monroe, I need to make some calls. I'll be back tomorrow morning." She stood gathering her portfolio. "In the meantime, rest. And don't worry." She paused at the door, looking back at me. "The truth has a way of surviving even when someone tries to bury it." After Patricia left, I sat there thinking about that Ring camera. Hannah said the footage was gone, deleted in her panic. But something about Patricia's expression gave me hope. Gina pulled her chair closer to my bed. "You know what I think? What I think that woman Hannah, she's not as smart as she thinks she is." Gina's voice was hard. "She got cocky, made mistakes, and Patricia Rivera looks like someone who doesn't miss mistakes." "I just want William to know the truth," I said softly. "I don't care about pressing charges or punishing anyone. I just want my son back." Gina took my hand. "Ashley, I love you like a sister. You know that. But you need to hear this. Even if we prove Hannah lied, that doesn't erase what William did. He threw you out without asking questions. He chose to believe the worst of you. That's not something you can just forgive and forget. He's my son, and you're his mother, which makes what he did even worse." Gina's voice was fierce. "You almost died, Ashley. You could have died in that parking lot alone and cold thinking your son hated you. Don't let your love for him make you forget that." I closed my eyes. She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of losing William forever made my chest ache worse than any physical pain. "What if he never believes me?" I whispered. "What if he thinks I'm making all this up? Then we have evidence. We have medical records. We have Patricia Rivera, who's about to uncover something. I can see it in her eyes. She's onto something." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But I'd seen William's face when he threw me out. the cold certainty in his eyes, the way he looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was someone capable of violence. Could evidence really change that eon? The next day, November 17th, started quietly. I was being transferred to a regular room since I was stable. The hypothermia was resolved, though I was still weak. My knee was braced, my arm was bruised but healing. Patricia arrived at 10 in the morning. This time she had a laptop with her. "Mrs. Monroe, I've been doing some background investigation into your daughter-in-law. Standard procedure in cases like this." She opened her laptop on the rolling table. "I found something interesting." Gina leaned in and I tried to sit up straighter, ignoring the protest from my ribs. "Hannah Ellis Monroe," Patricia said, pulling up a file. "Maiden name Ellis. She was married once before from 2015 to 2018. First husband was Brian Ellis." My heart sank. William didn't tell me she was married before. She may not have told him. Patricia clicked through some documents. "The divorce was contentious. I contacted Brian Ellis yesterday. He was hesitant to talk at first, but when I explained the situation, he opened up." "What did he say?" Gina asked. Patricia pulled out her notes. His exact words were, "What do you want to know about Hannah? Because I could write a book." She looked up at us. Brian's mother, Linda Ellis, was apparently very controlling, very involved in their marriage. She criticized Hannah constantly, undermined her, turned Brian against her over small things. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hospital air conditioning. Hannah felt ganged up on, isolated. The marriage fell apart after 3 years. In the divorce, she lost almost everything: the house, most of their savings. Brian's mother had hired an expensive lawyer for him. Patricia paused. "Here's what Brian told me that really matters. My mother convinced me Hannah was the problem, that she was manipulative, lazy, trying to take advantage of our family. I believed her. It took me 2 years after the divorce to realize my mother had been the toxic one all along." "Oh God," I whispered. Brian said, and I'm quoting here, "Hannah was never the same after that divorce. The last time I saw her, she said she'd never let another mother-in-law destroy her life again." The room was silent, except for the beeping of monitors and the distant sounds of the hospital. "So this isn't about me," I said slowly. "This is about what happened to her before. I'm a stand-in for Linda Ellis." Patricia nodded. "It appears so. But Mrs. Monroe and I need you to understand this trauma doesn't excuse cruelty. What happened to Hannah in her first marriage was real and painful. But that doesn't give her the right to hurt you, to lie about you, to nearly get you killed. It makes her more dangerous," Gina said quietly, "because she's not just greedy or mean, she's wounded. And wounded people can be vicious." Patricia closed her laptop. "This changes the investigation. It shows pattern and motive. Hannah wasn't just randomly cruel to you. She was acting out past trauma, which means she planned this, thought about it, chose to do it." She stood up. "I'm calling your son today. I need to talk to him about the Ring camera." "He won't believe you," I said. "He's convinced Hannah is the victim." Patricia's smile was thin. "We'll see about that." The call came that evening. I was in my new room, regular floor, watching the rain streak down the window. Gina had gone to get us dinner from the cafeteria. My phone, which Gina had retrieved from a very angry William, sat on my bedside table. It rang. Patricia Rivera's name on the screen. "Mrs. Monroe, I've just finished speaking with your son. I need to come see you tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. I'll have something to show you." Her voice was careful, controlled, but underneath I could hear something else. Excitement. November 19th. 3 days after the worst night of my life. Patricia arrived at exactly 9 a.m. She had her laptop, and this time she had someone with her. A Portland police detective. His badge said, Detective James Morrison. "Mrs. Monroe," Patricia said, "I'd like to show you something. But first I need to prepare you. What you're about to see is going to be difficult." My hands started shaking. Gina moved closer, putting her hand on my shoulder. Patricia opened her laptop and turned it so I could see the screen. "Your son gave me access to his Ring camera account yesterday. The main footage was deleted as Hannah claimed, but Ring has a cloud backup system. All footage is automatically backed up for 60 days, even if the primary file is deleted." She clicked play. The video was time-stamped. November 15th, 7:45 p.m. p.m. I watched Hannah enter my bedroom carrying a dinner tray. She set it on my bedside table, smiled at me, said something I couldn't hear. 7:47 p.m. Hannah left my room. Through the open door, I could see myself in my recliner, head drooping. Asleep. 8:15 p.m. Still asleep. TV flickering in my room. I hadn't moved. Then Patricia clicked to a different camera view. Hallway bathroom. 8:40 p.m. What I saw made my stomach drop. Hannah was standing in front of the bathroom mirror. She had makeup eyeshadow, it looked like, and she was applying it to her own arm. Dark purple. Blending it carefully to look like a bruise. Then she took her blouse, the expensive silk one I'd seen her wearing earlier, and deliberately tore it at the shoulder. She practiced expressions in the mirror. Crying face. Frightened face. She checked her phone, looked at something, then took a deep breath. Patricia paused the video. She's checking your son's location. His phone shares his location with hers. She's making sure he's close enough to pull into the driveway. She clicked to the next timestamp. 8:50 p.m. Front door camera. William's car pulling into the driveway. 8:51 p.m. Hallway camera. Hannah taking a deep breath, closing her eyes. And then, like turning on a switch, tears started streaming down her face. 8:52 p.m. Hannah walking toward the front door, tears flowing, the perfect picture of a terrified woman. Patricia stopped the video. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I just stared at the frozen image of Hannah's face wet with manufactured tears. She planned it, I finally whispered. All of it. Yes, Patricia said. And there's more. She pulled out printed documents. I subpoenaed Hannah's phone records and laptop. With the police present, we were able to obtain a warrant based on the suspected elder abuse. Detective Morrison spoke for the first time. Mrs. Monroe, what we found, it's damning. Patricia laid out the documents one by one like a dealer laying out cards. Browser history. November 10th, Elder Abuse Settlements, Oregon. November 11th, How much can you sue for elder abuse, Portland? November 12th, a legal forum thread titled, How much can you get for elder abuse, asking for a friend? Each word was like a knife. The average settlement in Oregon is $250,000, Patricia said. Some cases go as high as $500,000. She pulled out more papers. Text messages from Hannah's phone to her best friend Riley Thompson. Patricia read them aloud. November 5th, Hannah to Riley. I think I found a way out. November 13th, Hannah to Riley, tomorrow night. William's flight lands at 8:45. Timing is everything. November 15th, 7:30 p.m. Riley to Hannah. Good luck. You've got this. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. There's more, Detective Morrison said gently. We found a separate bank account, opened in March of this year in Hannah's name only. She's been transferring money into it for 8 months. Small amounts, $200 here, $300 there. Amounts your son probably wouldn't notice. How much? My voice was barely audible. $8,500. She was building an escape fund. Patricia leaned forward. Mrs. Monroe, Hannah was planning to leave your son, but she needed more money. A lot more. You were her ticket. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Frame me for assault. Get William to throw me out. File for elder abuse. Sue for hundreds of thousands. Divorce William with money in hand. She used my trauma, I said slowly. My stroke, my knee. She knew I was vulnerable, knew I'd have no way to defend myself. Yes, Patricia said, and she almost got away with it. What happens now? Gina asked. Detective Morrison stood. Now we bring her in for questioning. False police report. Filing a fraudulent claim. Elder abuse. Possibly attempted fraud. We'll see what the DA wants to charge. What about William? The question came out small and scared. Your son isn't being charged, Patricia said gently. He was a victim too. He believed his wife. He acted on false information. That doesn't excuse what he did to you, but legally he's not culpable for the elder abuse. Hannah is. She paused. But Mrs. Monroe, I need to tell you something else. Something about your son. My heart sank. What? We've been canvassing your neighbors. A Mrs. Helen Martinez who lives next door. She's 70, been in that neighborhood for 15 years. She was reluctant to share at first. Didn't want to gossip. But when we explained this was a criminal investigation, She showed us her doorbell camera footage. Patricia pulled up another video. A black Audi pulling up to William's house. A man getting out. Tall, mid-40s, well-dressed. "Do you recognize this man?" I squinted at the screen. "No. Should I?" "His name is Derek Lawson. He's your son's business partner." "Okay." Patricia clicked through more footage. Timestamps from different dates. September 20th, September 28th, October 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th, November 1st. All of them showed Derek's car. All of them were on dates when William was traveling for business. All of them showed Derek arriving in the evening, leaving before midnight. "No," I whispered. "No, she wouldn't." "I'm sorry," Patricia said. "But we have more evidence. Text messages between Hannah and Derek. They're intimate. She didn't show me those. I was grateful." "So she was cheating on William." My voice was flat. "With his business partner, while planning to frame me and sue us for money." "Yes." I thought about William, about how he'd looked when he threw me out. The certainty in his eyes that he was doing the right thing, protecting his wife from his dangerous mother. He had no idea. No idea his wife was betraying him in every possible way. "Does William know?" I asked. "About Derek?" "Not yet. We'll need to tell him when we interview him. He'll need to provide a statement about the night of November 15th. Patricia closed her laptop. "Mrs. Monroe, we're building a very strong case. The video evidence, the browser history, the text messages, the affair, the bank account, it all paints a picture of premeditation and fraud. When will you arrest her?" "We're scheduling an interview for November 23rd. We'll bring her in with her lawyer, present the evidence, see if she wants to make a statement." Detective Morrison's face was hard. "Sometimes when people see how much evidence we have, they confess. Saves everyone a trial. And if she doesn't, then we arrest her and let the DA build the case for trial." After they left, I sat in silence. Gina held my hand. "He's going to be devastated," I finally said. "When he finds out about Derek, about all of it." "Good," Gina said fiercely. "He should be devastated. He should feel every bit of pain you felt when he threw you out." "Gina, no, Ashley, I love you, but you need to stop protecting him. He's a grown man. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them." She was right. I knew she was right. But he was still my son, and I still loved him. God help me, I still loved him. November 20th, 5 days after my world ended. 5 days since my son threw me into a storm. I was sitting in my hospital room staring at nothing when Patricia Rivera called. "Mrs. Monroe, I need to come see you this afternoon. There's been a development." Her voice had that same controlled excitement from before, the tone of someone who'd just uncovered something big. She arrived at 2 o'clock, and this time she had Detective Morrison with her again. But there was someone else, too. A man I didn't recognize, 42 maybe, with the kind of expensive haircut and tailored suit that screamed success. But his eyes were red, swollen, like he'd been crying. "Mrs. Monroe," Patricia said, "this is Derek Lawson, William's business partner." My stomach dropped. The man from the doorbell camera footage. The man who'd been visiting my house, William's house, while my son was away on business trips. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. He stood near the door like he wanted to bolt. His hands were shaking. "Mr. Lawson has agreed to cooperate with our investigation," Detective Morrison said. "He's provided us with some very helpful information." "I didn't know," Derek blurted out suddenly. His voice cracked. "I swear to God I didn't know what she was planning. With you, the elder abuse thing. I had no idea." I just stared at him. This man who'd been sleeping with my son's wife. Patricia gestured to a chair. "Mr. Lawson, why don't you tell Mrs. Monroe what you told us?" Derek sat down heavily like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He buried his face in his hands for a moment, then looked up at me. His eyes were desperate, pleading. "William is my best friend," he said. "We started the company together 7 years ago. We've been through everything together, and I betrayed him in the worst possible way." "You slept with his wife," I said flatly. Derek flinched. "Yes, but she told me they were separated, that they were just keeping up appearances until you moved out. She said William wanted a divorce, but didn't want to upset you while you were recovering from your stroke. And you believed her." "I wanted to believe her." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I was in love with her. Or I thought I was. She was She knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make me feel like I was rescuing her from a bad situation. Gina, who was sitting in her usual chair by the window, made a disgusted sound. Derek continued his words, tumbling out faster now. It started in September. William was in Seattle for a tech conference. Hannah called me, said she was lonely, asked if I wanted to come over for dinner. Just as friends, she said. We'd had dinner before, the three of us, me, her, and William, so I didn't think anything of it. He rubbed his face. But that night she told me she was unhappy, that William was always working, always traveling, that she felt invisible in her own marriage. She cried, and I comforted her. And then she kissed me. And you kissed her back, I said. Yes, the word was barely audible. I kissed her back, and then it became a pattern. Every time William traveled, she'd call. We'd meet, sometimes at the house, sometimes at hotels. She made me feel like I was special, like she'd chosen me. Patricia pulled out her phone, showing me text messages. These are from Hannah to Mr. Lawson. I read them, feeling sicker with each line. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. William leaves at 6 a.m. Last night was perfect. I wish we didn't have to hide. Soon we won't have to sneak around. Soon we'll be together for real. She told me she was going to ask William for a divorce, Derek said. She said she just needed to wait for the right time. After the holidays, she said. After your birthday. There was always a reason to wait. Did she ever mention money? Detective Morrison asked, even though I knew he already knew the answer. Derek nodded miserably. She talked about it a lot, actually, about how she'd contributed to William's success, how she deserved half of everything in a divorce. She researched Oregon divorce law, showed me articles about asset division. She said she was just being practical. Patricia leaned forward. Mr. Lawson, did Hannah ever discuss Mrs. Ashley Monroe with you? Derek's face went pale. She complained about you. A lot. Said you were judgmental. That you didn't approve of her. That you made her feel unwelcome in her own home. Each word was a knife in my heart. I tried to tell her that maybe she was being too sensitive, Derek continued. I know William adores you. Talks about you all the time. But Hannah would get so upset when I defended you. She'd say I didn't understand. That you were subtle about it, that you hid your disapproval behind politeness. I started, but Patricia held up a hand. We know Mrs. Monroe, let him finish. Derek took a shaky breath. About 2 months ago, late September, Hannah started talking about, what if something happened to you? Not like she wanted to hurt you, he added quickly, but like, what if you had another stroke? What if you fell? She talked about how hard it would be on William, how guilty he'd feel. My blood ran cold. She researched care facilities, Derek continued, showed me brochures for nursing homes, said she was just being prepared in case you needed more care than they could provide at home. I thought she was being responsible. When did she tell you about the pregnancy? Patricia asked. My head snapped up. Pregnancy. Derek's face crumpled. 2 months ago, October 15th, she showed me a positive pregnancy test, said the baby was mine, that we were going to be a family. The room was silent except for the beeping of my monitors. She said we just needed to wait a little longer, Derek whispered. That she needed to handle things with William carefully, that she didn't want to hurt him more than necessary. And I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. Mr. Lawson, when did you last see Hannah? November 14th, the night before everything happened. William was in Seattle. Hannah and I had dinner at her place, at William's place. He corrected himself. She seemed nervous, distracted. I asked what was wrong, and she said she was just worried about telling William the truth. About us, about the baby. Did she mention Mrs. Monroe at all that night? Derek nodded slowly. She said you'd been acting strange, aggressive, that you'd grabbed her wrist earlier that day when she tried to help you up the stairs. She showed me her arm. There was no bruise then, but she said it hurt. I told her she should tell William, and she said no, she didn't want to upset him while he was on his trip. The pieces were falling into place. The groundwork, the setup, all leading to November 15th. Mr. Lawson, Detective Morrison said, we need to tell you something. Hannah Monroe is not pregnant. We had her examined at the hospital when we brought her in for questioning yesterday. There's no pregnancy. There never was. Derek's face went white. For a moment, I thought he might pass out. No, he whispered. No, she showed me the test. She talked about names. She said she could feel it. Feel the baby. The test was fake, Patricia said bluntly. You can buy positive pregnancy tests online, or she could have gotten one from a pregnant friend. We're still investigating how she obtained it. But Mr. Lawson, there is no baby. There never was. Derek doubled over like he'd been punched. A sound came out of him, half sob, half groan. It was the sound of a man's world shattering. She lied, he said. About the baby, about the separation, about everything. Yes, Patricia said. Derek looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Monroe, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what she was planning. I swear I didn't know she was going to hurt you. If I had known... But you didn't ask, I said quietly. You didn't question her story. You just believed what you wanted to believe. He flinched, but nodded. You're right. I was selfish. I wanted her, so I believed her lies. And because of that, William threw you out. You almost died. I'm so sorry. I should have felt angry. Should have hated this man who'd betrayed my son, who'd been part of the web of lies that nearly killed me. But looking at him broken and crying, I just felt tired. You're not the villain here, I said. You're another victim. She used you just like she used me, just like she used William. Derek shook his head. That doesn't excuse what I did. I slept with my best friend's wife. I betrayed him. That's on me. Hannah might have lied, but I made the choice to believe her. Detective Morrison stood. Mr. Lawson has agreed to provide a full statement. Text messages, emails, everything. He's also agreed to testify if this goes to trial. Derek stood too unsteady on his feet. I'll do whatever you need. Whatever helps bring her to justice. And Mrs. Monroe, I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm truly sorry. For all of it. After he left, I sat in silence. Gina came to my bedside and took my hand. That poor stupid man, she said. He loved her, I said. Or thought he did. Love makes people stupid. Love made William stupid too, Gina said sharply. Made him throw his mother into a storm. I didn't have an answer for that. Later that afternoon, Patricia returned with more documents. She spread them across my bedside table like evidence at a trial. William gave us permission to search Hannah's laptop, she said. He's not taking any of this well. How is he? The question escaped before I could stop it. Patricia's expression softened. Devastated. He's staying with Derek, actually. Neither of them can stand to be in that house right now. He asked me to tell you, she paused. He asked me to tell you he's sorry. He knows that's not enough, but he wanted you to know. My eyes filled with tears, but I blinked them back. What did you find on the laptop? Patricia opened her portfolio. A lot. More than we expected, actually. Hannah wasn't as careful as she thought she was. She showed me screenshots of web browser history. The searches were damning. November 10th, Elder Abuse Settlements, Oregon. November 10th, How to Prove Elder Abuse. November 10th, Oregon Elder Abuse Laws. November 11th, Average Elder Abuse Settlement Amount. November 11th, How long does elder abuse lawsuit take? November 11th, How much can you sue for elder abuse, Portland? November 12th, Multiple visits to legal forums. One thread in particular made my stomach turn. The title was, How much can you get for elder abuse asking for a friend? Patricia read me some of the posts Hannah had made under a fake username. Friend of mine has elderly MIL living with them. MIL is becoming aggressive, but friend can't prove it, no cameras yet. If something happens, how much could friend sue for friend's MIL has medical issues, stroke knee surgery? Would that increase settlement amount if there was abuse? If MIL was thrown out of house in bad weather and got hypothermia, could friend sue for attempted murder or just elder abuse? The last one was dated November 13th, 2 days before she put her plan into action. She researched it all, I whispered. Every detail. She knew exactly what she was doing. Yes, Patricia said. This shows premeditation. It's not a crime of passion or a momentary lapse of judgment. She planned this carefully. There was more. So much more. Google searches for how to create fake bruise with makeup, YouTube videos, theatrical makeup bruising tutorial, Amazon purchases special effects makeup. Theatrical bruise wheel. Patricia showed me Hannah's Amazon order history. She'd purchased a professional makeup kit on November 1st, 2 weeks before she used it to frame me. She practiced, Patricia said. We found photos on her phone, selfies with fake bruises that she'd taken and deleted over the past 2 weeks. She was perfecting the technique. I felt sick. There's more, Patricia said quietly. Text messages to her friend Riley Thompson. We got a warrant for Riley's phone as well. She showed me the messages, and they were worse than I could have imagined. November 5th, Hannah. I think I found a way out. Riley. Out of what, Hannah? This whole situation. William, the mother-in-law, all of it. Riley. Tell me, Hannah. Not over text. I'll call you later. November 8th, Hannah. Remember that idea I told you about Riley? The one with the old lady, Hannah. Yeah, I'm really thinking about doing it. Riley. Are you sure? Seems risky. Hannah. Not if I'm smart about it. And I am smart. Riley, what about Derek, Hannah? What about him? He's useful for now. November 13th, Hannah. Tomorrow night. William's flight lands at 8:45. Timing is everything. Riley. You're really doing this. Hannah can't back out now. I need the money. I need out of this marriage. Riley, what if it doesn't work? Hannah. It'll work. I've planned everything. November 15th, 7:30 p.m. Riley. Good luck. You've got this. Hannah. Thanks. About to put on my performance. Wish me luck. Riley, break a leg, or in this case bruise an arm, the emoji. The casual cruelty of it. They were joking about destroying my life. Riley Thompson is being brought in for questioning as well, Detective Morrison said. She may face charges as an accessory if we can prove she knew the specifics of the plan. Patricia pulled out another document. Bank records. Hannah opened a separate account at a different bank in March of this year. She's been siphoning money from the joint account she shares with William. Small amounts, $200 here, $300 there. Amounts small enough that William wouldn't notice in their regular spending. How much did she take? I asked. $8,500 over 8 months. She was building an escape fund. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Here's what we think happened. Hannah was unhappy in her marriage. Maybe she was before her affair with Derek, or maybe the affair made her realize she wanted out. Either way, she wanted a divorce. But she wanted money too, I said. Exactly. In Oregon, marital assets are split 50-50 in a divorce. William's company is worth approximately $2 million. Hannah would get half $1 million, but that money is tied up in the business. It could take years to liquidate, and the process would be expensive and messy. Patricia pulled out another document. But an elder abuse settlement, that's different. That's liquid cash. Fast. And it doesn't have to be split with William because it would be Hannah's personal lawsuit, not marital assets. The calculation was coldly brilliant. She researched the average settlements, Patricia continued. $250,000 to $500,000. She planned to frame you, get you thrown out of the house, sue for elder abuse, collect the settlement, then divorce William and take her half of the marital assets anyway. She'd walk away with over $1 million. Gina said, her voice hard with anger. Yes, and she'd have Derek waiting for her. Or so she thought. I don't think she actually planned to stay with Derek long term. The fake pregnancy was probably just another manipulation. Keep him invested. Keep him helping her. Then discard him when he was no longer useful. I thought about Derek's face, the devastation when he learned about the fake pregnancy. She destroys everyone she touches, I said softly. Yes, Patricia agreed. And now we're going to stop her. November 23rd, 8 days after the worst night of my life. 8 days since William threw me into a storm. I was being discharged from the hospital today. My hypothermia was resolved. My knee was healing, though I'd need physical therapy for months. The bruises on my arm, the real ones from William's grip, were fading to yellow-green. But the bruises on my heart would take longer to heal. Patricia had called yesterday. Mrs. Monroe, we're bringing Hannah in tomorrow, 8 a.m., hospital conference room. We'd like you to be there if you feel up to it. Why? Because she needs to see you. She needs to see that you survived, that her plan failed. And honestly, Patricia's voice hardened. I want her to face what she did. Not just to a nameless victim, but to a real person. To you. So here I was, sitting in a wheelchair, hospital policy for discharge, being pushed by a nurse toward conference room B. Gina walked beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "You could go straight to my house. Let them handle it." "No," I said. "I need to be there. I need to look her in the eye." The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. There was a long table with chairs arranged around it. Patricia Rivera sat at the head. Detective Morrison stood near the door. Dr. Vasquez, the social worker who'd first believed me, sat against the wall with a notepad. And William was there. My son sat at the far end of the table, hunched in on himself like he was trying to disappear. He looked terrible. His eyes were sunken, his face unshaven, his clothes rumpled like he'd slept in them. When I wheeled into the room, he looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. I saw my little boy in his face, the child I'd raised, the son I'd loved with every fiber of my being. Then I saw the man who'd thrown me into a storm. William's face crumpled. "Mom!" But before he could say anything else, the door opened. Hannah walked in. She looked perfect as always. Her hair was styled, her makeup flawless. She wore a navy blue suit that probably cost more than my monthly Social Security check. Her lawyer walked beside her, an expensive-looking woman in her 50s with a designer briefcase. Hannah's eyes swept the room, landing on each of us in turn. When she saw me, something flickered across her face. Surprise, concern, it was gone too quickly to read. "Good morning," her lawyer said crisply. "I'm Diane Foster, representing Mrs. Hannah Monroe. I'd like to know what this is about before we proceed." Patricia stood. "Mrs. Foster, your client is here to answer questions about events that occurred on November 15th of this year. We have reason to believe she filed a false police report and may have committed elder abuse against Mrs. Ashley Monroe." Hannah's perfectly painted lips curved into a small, sad smile. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, her voice soft and sincere. "I know Ashley is upset, but what happened that night was real. She grabbed me. She hurt me. I have the bruise to prove it." "Had the bruise," Patricia corrected. "Past tense, because bruises fade, especially when they were never real to begin with." Hannah's smile didn't waver. "I don't know what you mean." Patricia opened her laptop. "Let me show you what I mean." She turned the screen so everyone could see. Then she pressed play. The video started. November 15th, 7:45 p.m. Hannah entering my bedroom with a dinner tray. Hannah's face went pale, but her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Don't say anything," she warned. The video continued. 7:47 p.m. Hannah leaving my room, me clearly visible asleep in my recliner. 8:15 p.m. Still asleep, hadn't moved. Then the hallway bathroom footage. 8:40 p.m. Hannah in front of the mirror, applying makeup to her arm, tearing her blouse, practicing crying. The room was absolutely silent. Everyone watched. William's face was frozen in shock. Hannah's lawyer had gone pale, and Hannah sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable. The video continued. William's car pulling into the driveway. Hannah taking a deep breath, closing her eyes. Tears starting to flow like someone had turned on a faucet. Patricia stopped the video. "You told your husband the Ring camera footage was deleted," she said. "You told him you'd accidentally deleted it in your panic. But Ring cameras have automatic cloud backup. For 60 days. You deleted the main footage, but you didn't know about the backup." Hannah's lawyer stood. "I'd like a moment alone with my client." "Sit down, Mrs. Foster," Detective Morrison said, his voice hard. "We're not done." Patricia pulled out more documents. "Let's talk about your browser history, Mrs. Monroe." She read through the searches. Elder abuse settlements, lawsuit amounts, legal forums. With each item, Hannah's perfect composure cracked a little more. Text messages to Riley Thompson. Patricia continued reading them aloud. The planning, the jokes, the casual cruelty. William made a sound like he'd been hit. "The affair with Derek Lawson," Patricia said, laying out the doorbell camera footage. 7 visits, all while William was away. William buried his face in his hands. "The fake pregnancy," Patricia said. "You told Derek Lawson you were pregnant with his child. You showed him a positive pregnancy test. But you're not pregnant, Mrs. Monroe. You never were." Hannah's lawyer looked at her client with something like disgust. "The separate bank account, Patricia continued. $8,500 siphoned from your joint account with your husband over 8 months. The professional makeup kit purchased on Amazon, Patricia said. The practice photos on your phone, the careful planning and premeditation. She laid out every piece of evidence one by one, building a case so airtight that even Hannah's expensive lawyer couldn't find a crack in it. Finally, Patricia sat back. Mrs. Monroe, you orchestrated an elaborate scheme to frame a vulnerable elderly woman for assault. You manipulated your husband into throwing his own mother out into a freezing November storm. You did this for money, for a settlement you planned to collect, then use to fund your divorce and new life with your lover. A lover you were also manipulating with a fake pregnancy. The room was silent. Hannah's lawyer spoke first. Detective, my client and I need to discuss. I didn't mean for her to get hurt, Hannah interrupted. Hannah don't know, her lawyer started. I didn't, Hannah's voice rose. I just wanted her gone. I just wanted her out of my house. I thought she'd go to a hotel, call a friend. I didn't think. You didn't think a 65-year-old woman with a recent stroke and knee surgery would be able to walk 3.5 miles in a freezing rainstorm? Patricia's voice was cold. You didn't think she might get hypothermia, might fall, might die. Hannah's perfect facade was cracking. Her eyes were wild now, desperate. She was always there, always watching, always judging me. I couldn't breathe in my own home. She was just like... She stopped, but it was too late. Just like your first mother-in-law, Patricia said quietly. Linda Ellis, we spoke to your ex-husband Hannah. We know what happened in your first marriage. We know Linda made your life hell. We know you lost everything in that divorce. Hannah's eyes filled with real tears, not the manufactured ones from November 15th. These were real. You don't understand, she whispered. I swore I'd never let it happen again. Never let another mother-in-law destroy my life. Control me, push me out. I spoke for the first time. My voice was quiet, but clear. I never tried to control you, Hannah. I never tried to push you out. I tried to stay out of your way. To be grateful for your hospitality. To not be a burden. Hannah looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. You were always there, she said. Every time I turned around. You, in my kitchen, in my living room, in my life. I felt like I was suffocating. So you tried to kill me, I said. No, Hannah's voice broke. I just wanted you gone. I just wanted my life back. I never wanted you hurt. I had $40, I said, he said. No phone, a bum knee, and you threw me into a storm. What did you think would happen? Hannah buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with sobs. But I felt no pity, only a cold, hard certainty. You nearly killed me so you could steal from my son and run off with his best friend, I said. You researched exactly how much money you could make from my suffering. You practiced your fake bruises in the mirror. You planned every detail. So don't sit there and cry about how you didn't mean for me to get hurt. You knew exactly what you were doing. Detective Morrison stepped forward. Mrs. Hannah Ellis Monroe, you're under arrest. The words seemed to echo in the small room. What? Hannah's head snapped up. No, wait. You have the right to remain silent, Morrison continued, pulling out handcuffs. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Diane, do something. Hannah turned to her lawyer desperately, but Diane Foster was already packing up her briefcase. I'll meet you at the station. Don't say anything without me present. The handcuffs clicked around Hannah's wrists. William, Hannah turned to my son, her eyes pleading. William, please, you have to believe me. I love you. I never meant... William finally looked at her. His face was a mask of grief and disgust. Don't, he said, his voice breaking. Don't say you love me. You slept with my best friend. You told him you were pregnant with his baby. You framed my mother and nearly killed her. You planned to sue us for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't you dare say you love me. Hannah started crying harder. I can explain everything. If you just let me... Get her out of here, William said, turning away. Detective Morrison led Hannah toward the door. She was still crying, still pleading. William, please. You don't understand. Ashley was always... The door closed, cutting off her words. The silence in the conference room was deafening. Patricia stood. Mrs. Monroe, on behalf of the State of Oregon and Adult Protective Services, I want to apologize for what you endured. No one should have to go through what you went through. I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. Patricia gathered her things. The DA will be in touch. You'll likely need to give a formal statement, possibly testify if this goes to trial. But Mrs. Monroe, we have enough evidence that I think Hannah's lawyer will advise her to take a plea deal. She's facing multiple felonies. False police report, elder abuse conspiracy to commit fraud. She's looking at serious prison time. After Patricia and Detective Morrison left, it was just me, Gina, Dr. Vasquez, and William in the room. William sat at the far end of the table, his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying. Part of me wanted to go to him, to comfort him, to tell him it would be okay. But a bigger part of me, the part that had walked 3.5 miles in a freezing storm, stayed in my wheelchair. "William," I said quietly. He looked up. His face was destroyed. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have asked you. I should have believed you. You should have been my son," I said. The words came out harder than I intended, but they were true. "You should have protected me. Instead, you threw me away like garbage." "I know," he whispered. "I know, and I will never forgive myself for that. Never." I looked at him, this man I'd raised, this son I'd loved, and I felt nothing, not anger, not love, just a vast, empty numbness. "I need time," I said finally. "I need space to heal, from the hypothermia, from the knee injury, from—" I gestured vaguely. "All of this." "I understand," William said. "Whatever you need, however long you need." He stood up, unsteady on his feet. "I sold the house. The one where it happened. I couldn't stay there. Every room reminded me of what I did to you." "Where will you go?" "Derek and I are renting an apartment together. For now. Until we figure things out." He laughed bitterly. "Two men whose lives were destroyed by the same woman. We're quite a pair." He moved toward the door, then stopped. "Mom, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but will you let me know where you're staying? In case something happens, in case you need anything." I looked at Gina. She nodded slightly. "I'm staying with Pastor Gina," I said. "For now." "Okay." William's voice broke on the word. "Okay, thank you." He left. Gina came to my wheelchair and knelt down so we were eye to eye. "How are you doing?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I got justice. Hannah's going to prison." The truth came out. I should feel something, but I just feel empty. "That's shock," Dr. Vasquez said gently. "You've been through a tremendous trauma. It's going to take time to process everything. Months, probably. Maybe longer." "What do I do now?" I asked. Gina took my hand. Now you come home with me. We get you settled. You rest, you heal, and you figure out what Ashley Monroe wants for the rest of her life." "What about William? What about him?" Gina's voice was firm. "He's a grown man. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them." "But he's my son. And you're his mother, which makes what he did even worse." Gina squeezed my hand. "Ashley, listen to me. You can love him and still set boundaries. You can forgive him eventually and still demand that he earns that forgiveness. Don't let your love for him erase what he did to you." I closed my eyes. She was right. I knew she was right. But God, it hurt. Later that afternoon, I was in my hospital room packing up the few belongings I had. The clothes. Gina had brought me some toiletries, get well cards from church members I barely knew, but who'd heard my story and wanted to help. There was a knock on the door. It was Derek Lawson. He looked even worse than he had 2 days ago, like he hadn't slept since learning about the fake pregnancy. "Mrs. Monroe," he said, hovering in the doorway. "I'm sorry to bother you. I wanted to say goodbye, and to give you this." He held out an envelope. I took it cautiously. "What is it?" "A check," he said. "It's not enough. It could never be enough. But it's what I can afford right now. $20,000. For your medical bills. For the trauma. For—" He gestured helplessly. "Everything." I opened the envelope. Sure enough, there was a check made out to me for $20,000. "Derek, I can't—" "Please," he said. "Please let me do this. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't undo what happened, but I need to do something. I need to try to make it right, even though I know I can't. I looked at the check. $20,000. It would cover my hospital bills, the ambulance ride, the physical therapy I'd need for my knee. It would give me a cushion while I figured out what to do next. "Thank you," I said quietly. Derek nodded. "William and I, we're trying to save the company. Hannah nearly destroyed that, too. She was stealing from the business accounts as well, not just the personal ones. We're doing a complete audit now." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Don't be," Derek said. "We deserve what we get. We were both fools. We let her destroy our friendship, your family, everything, because we were weak and selfish." He turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, William is destroyed. I've never seen him like this. He barely eats, barely sleeps. He just sits and stares at nothing. I think he's realized what he lost, and that he might never get it back." "That's his choice to live with," I said. "I know, but I thought you should know. He loves you. He always has. He failed you when it mattered most." After Derek left, I sat holding the check, thinking about love and failure, and whether the two could coexist. Gina came in, saw the check, and raised an eyebrow. "From Derek," I nodded. "Blood money," she said. "Maybe," I agreed. "But it's money that will help me rebuild my life, and I'm going to take it." That evening, as Gina helped me into her car for the drive to her house, I looked back at the hospital one more time. 8 days ago, I'd nearly died in the rain outside a church. Now I was leaving with my life, my truth, and a strange kind of justice. Hannah would go to prison. William would live with his guilt. Derek would live with his shame. And me, I would live. Just live. For now, that was enough. As we drove through Portland, past the street where William's house used to be, past the church where Pastor Gina had saved my life, past the hospital where I'd been vindicated, I thought about what came next. I didn't know if I could ever forgive William. Didn't know if I wanted to. But I knew one thing for certain: I was done being the convenient victim, the easy target, the overlooked elderly woman that people assumed was weak. Hannah had tried to destroy me. William had helped her. But I survived. And now I would do more than survive. I would rebuild, reclaim, renew. The rain started falling again, but this time I was warm and dry inside Gina's car, driving towards safety and healing. The storm was over, but my story was just beginning.